YouTube? Welcome back to TCAM Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Cameron Trace. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's been 13 days now. Last week I recorded an episode, technical difficulties, no sound quality or anything like that when I went to publish the episode, so didn't get to do last week. There was a lot of crazy games last week. Like I said, if you're missing all the recaps and stuff like that, over on our TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, I'm posting all the recaps of all the cool and all the top ranked games that are going on. So your upsets, your ranked games, your big time games, big time news in sports. Anyway, I talked about D Rose retirement this past week. We talked about how Jaden Daniels takes out the Bengals in football this week. So we saw a bunch of cool matchups, NFL and college wise. Now, this episode right here is going to be a little bit of mix of both, and that's because I'm going to highlight just the couple games from each league. I'm not going to cover every single pick'em game this week. I'm only going to cover just the top dog games and the Pittsburgh Steelers, obviously, because West Virginia's not playing this week. That might be a good thing, and that might be a bad thing, but to me, less stress if West Virginia's not playing this week and less anger that I have to endure over the weekend. So, all right, let's get started in college football. We got Oklahoma State facing off against Kansas State. Big 12 ranked matchup. Now, thriller matchup. Oklahoma State did not play well against Utah. Well, Utah's got a great defense, and Utah can pretty much any team that has a great defense comes to the Big 12 is going to be prolific. That is going to show up and be able to produce. So Utah was the expected team that was going to be good, and they are the favorites to win the Big 12. So I couldn't argue that Oklahoma State could beat them. I picked Oklahoma State because Mike Gundy, the experience. I like Ollie Gordon. Ollie Gordon did not get very good rushing yards against Utah. Utah shut that down real quick. So they're facing off this week against Kansas State. Now, Kansas State didn't look good against their game against BYU. They got blown out by BYU at BYU, and BYU ain't that great of a football team. So, number 23 and number 20. I'm seeing a vengeful week come back from Ollie Gordon in Oklahoma State. I'm going to Oklahoma State again. I picked him last week. I'm picking him again. I think they're going to take out Avery Johnson. Listen, I like Sonny Dykes and TCU. TCU's got a good football squad. They really do. Avery Johnson's kind of grown into himself, but Bowman's been there for the last couple of years. Ollie Gordon, he's going to be a top NFL prospect next year. So I'm going to pick Ollie. If they rely on Ollie Gordon and their run game and their defense, Oklahoma State will get the job done. And I think Oklahoma State goes into Kansas State this week and gets the job done. So that's be the first ranked game we're going with this week in college football. Now, we got Michigan and Ohio State. Okay, Michigan State, sorry. Michigan State and Ohio State. Michigan State Spartans host the Ohio State Buckeyes. Now, why am I talking about this game? It's going to be an interesting game. No, I think Ohio State's going to blow Michigan State out of the water. I really do. I don't think it's really going to be all that close of a game. However, this is the first big-time matchup, first winning team for Ohio State this year, right? Ohio State's finally playing somebody that's worth the damn. Because Akron, Western Michigan, and Marshall ain't cutting, okay? Those three games are cakewalks, winning 52-6 in their first game, 56-0 in their second game, and 49-14 against Marshall. So I think Ohio State finally needs to get on board and finally let's play somebody that's actually worth their competition. So Ohio State going into Michigan State. It's on Peacock, which is strange because college football games are normally never on streaming apps. Ohio State taking on Michigan State. Ohio State is minus 24 on the spread. Now, I think that's a little high because Michigan State's 3-1. They're not a bad team. I think they're comparable or competitive with Ohio State? No, because Ohio State paid $20 million for their roster. So I just don't think that they're on that level. However, I think Michigan State is not going to get blown out by 24 points. I don't think Ohio State beats them by 24. I think Ohio State could beat them by 17 points. I think that's a fair shot. Ohio State can beat it by 17. I expect a good week out of Will Howard, Judkins. Expect Hendrickson, I think is his name, to be involved a little bit more, and Smith is a dog. So I expect a little bit out of this offense, but a little bit of competitive matchup. But I thought I should highlight Ohio State finally getting to play somebody this year, which is, thrilling. Another one in the Big Ten. This is the Big Ten matchup of the week. We got Illinois and Penn State. Now, Illinois and Penn State, Drew Allar has looked good throughout the first couple games. Singleton is a stud back. Penn State has got a stud team. Their coordinators have proven worthy. James Franklin's a stud coach. Now, Illinois played Nebraska, and I thought that was one of the most thrilling games of the year going into overtime, and Illinois got the job done against Nebraska. They got the upset. Now they're going up against probably the best team they're going to play all year right now, Penn State. At Penn State. No people got Penn State as the favorite. I'm going with Illinois. Illinois has always kind of had a solid defense over the past couple years. And while they didn't play solid against Nebraska, I think they could play good enough to be able to make a one-stop thing against Penn State. I think their offense can keep up with Penn State. Illinois proved last week against Nebraska they got an offense that can move. Probably the best offense I've seen out of them in the last couple of years. I think they can make an upset. I think they can make it happen. I know people are going to pick Penn State. I know Penn State's the favorite, but I like the upsets. I like the underdogs. So I'm going with Illinois. I'm going with Illinois to upset Penn State. Now, are my odds looking likely? No, they're not, because Penn State's a 17.5 favorite. So it's not looking likely. It really isn't. But I think it can happen. Anything can happen. And I think it'd be fun it's fun that there's another Big Ten West team, or used to be Big Ten West team, that is competitive with the three big dogs in the East. I think it's fun to see Nebraska and Illinois finally competing on that level. And I'd love to see Illinois be able to upset Penn State. So I'm going with Illinois to upset Penn State. Now, we got another Big 12 matchup. And I know a lot of people ain't going to say this is a thriller, but I think it is because, well, Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter, ladies and gentlemen, they keep proving us wrong, should have lost to Baylor. They should have lost to Baylor. And Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter make something happen every week. They keep proving to everybody that they're making stuff happen. They get a thrilling win. UCF coming off their bye, play TCU, 135-34 in their Big 12 opener. KJ Jefferson looked good in the Big 12 opener. Has a home game now against Colorado. A lot of people picking Colorado. And like I said, you can go on to the TikTok and vote. I have a little poll going on that TikTok video that you can vote who you think's going to win. Who you think's are going to win in these games, because I do put them up. I do want people to be able to vote. So come and follow the TikTok. Come follow. Come comment. Just talk about, sports in general. Let's just talk about football and, why you think I'm wrong, or hell, I might be right. So who knows? But UCF and Colorado, I'm going with UCF. KJ Jefferson in the RPO game is crazy. And none of the defenses on both teams are not all that great. However, I think Colorado is going to be running into some trouble against UCF. Their RPO game is hard to stop. KJ Jefferson, I think this UCF team is really looking to be able to eclipse to a Big 12 championship game this year, and I think they have an opportunity, a shot to do it, but they've got to take out Colorado. Deion Sanders is Deion Sanders, Shedeur Sanders, and Travis Hunter are who they are, right? Jimmy Horn Jr. is a great little wide receiver for them, but I think UCF can eclipse themselves enough to be able to take out Colorado in a 3-point upset, in a 3-point win this weekend. I wouldn't call it an upset because I guess technically UCF is the favorite by -14, but I'm not going to say UCF is that far of a favorite when their defense played as poorly as they did against TCU. So I think Colorado can make up the offense that TCU made up in that game, but that's just how I think about that. So I think UCF will get the win over Colorado in a close one, not in an upset. So that is another big-time matchup in college football this week. Now, I guess we could talk about the game of the – well, no. I want to wait because that is the most special game of the week for college football. Louisville-Notre Dame. Number 15 Louisville goes in to take on number 16 Notre Dame. Now, I'm not Riley Leonard's biggest fan. I think Riley Leonard is not that big of an upgrade for Notre Dame. I really don't. I think Sam Hartman was a better quarterback than Riley Leonard. I think Riley Leonard gets paid too much to be at Notre Dame. He just hasn't proven to me that he's all that great of a quarterback. I know they beat Purdue down, but they only beat Purdue down because, well, they should have never lost to Northern Illinois. And then they beat Miami of Ohio. So their competition scheme has not been all that great. Now they're going to play a dog like Louisville, who Louisville has looked really good, right? They looked good against Georgia Tech, which they could have lost that game, And then that was really their biggest competition right there was Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech was nobody to sleep on. They took out Florida State. Georgia Tech is number one in almost rushing in the ACC, so they look good. But Louisville, I like their quarterback. I like their run game. And you know what? I think they are better than Notre Dame. And this game is being held on Peacock. And who would ever known that? Because some reason streaming services are now in college football. Notre Dame is the favorite. I don't know why. Because they're at home. Their defense has not impressed me all that much. And their offense hasn't either. And Louisville's the better rank. Louisville's the higher rank. Crazy. It really is. I'm going with Louisville. Louisville will take out Notre Dame. I'd say it'd be a close one. I would say it'd be a close one. But I don't see Notre Dame winning this game. I'm not betting on Notre Dame. Last time I bet on Notre Dame, they lost. So I'm not betting on Notre Dame. And for college football, we will get to the end here. The game of the week and possibly the game of the year. Georgia goes in to Bryant-Denny Stadium to play Alabama. Roll Tide roll. Alabama looking to seize a win. Kalen DeBoer, his first time in the SEC, his first time in a big-time matchup here. It's a big-time matchup. It's probably one of the biggest matchups in his coaching career. Now, I know he coached in the national championship for Washington. I know he's been in other big-time moments. But there is nothing more special, no more competitive game than this game right here. These teams have met in the national championship. They've met in multiple SEC championship games. Their seasons depend on this game right here. Alabama, Jalen Milroe, Ryan Williams is his name. The receiver, the little young, speedy receiver that Alabama had. This Alabama offense has looked elite. They've looked good. Their defense has looked pretty darn good this year as well. They played Wisconsin well. They had a bye week. They played South Florida. Alabama has looked good throughout their first three games. Now, it has taken long with them to get started throughout the game, but once they finally get going, they've been moving the ball well. Georgia, however, they played their first two games primarily well. They played a really rough first half against Clemson. It was closer than it should have been, but Georgia got it done in the second half. Georgia played a too-close-to-call game against Kentucky. Now, that's because Kentucky threw a bunch of confusion defensive plays against Carson Beck. Carson Beck didn't expect any of that stuff, and I don't expect any less from Alabama. I know Nick Saban's not there. I know that that Nick Saban aura above Kirby Smart, right? Kirby Smart coached for Nick Saban, so Nick Saban always had the edge. Alabama has just as better chance with now than they did last year. Kalen DeBoer is a good, and I might be butchering that name completely, his last name, but he has as good as chance. His offense is as good as any offense in the country. And right now is a big-time statement game for him. So, Hunter bet on Alabama, and this is for my other show. Hunter bet on Alabama, and you can go follow the Countdown 304 on TikTok and TK Sports Podcast. My buddy Hunter bet Georgia to win, even though he wants Alabama to win. He said Georgia's going to win this game. I think Roll Tide win this game. Do I think it was in the fashion in the state they did last year in the SEC Championship game? No, I don't. Do I think this game is a lot different than that game? Yes, I do. I think Jalen Milroe throws the ball more in this game. I think Jalen Milroe he's on track to make better decisions this year. And I know Carson Beck's looking for a lot of revenge at Georgia to try to get back at Alabama. But I think this is a moment for Alabama to steal this game at home against Georgia. Even though I think Kirby Smart's the best coach in college football since Nick Saban's departure, I think Alabama can steal this game. Roll Tide roll. I'm going with Alabama to win this game in a thriller. Alabama will get the job done against Georgia. So, college football, that is my college football picks. Just did a small little choice of games, right? We didn't talk about every single game, but we talked about a small, good little choice of games. So, that's what I'm going with college football. Now, I'm going to end it here. NFL tomorrow. Y'all tune in to see a little bit of NFL. We got a lot to talk about. Cowboys and Giants. It's interesting on Thursday night now. That's an interesting game. We got some good ones on Sunday. So we'll hop in on Sunday, and I'll see y'all tomorrow. Hope y'all enjoy college football Saturday. Glad we're back. Wanted to get back on here.